With everything going on in the world, people need to be uplifted. They need something that promotes character, creativity, confidence, and joy. The GRN show is not just an average talk show. The topics are powerful and will make you think. Join me on this journey to be informed, to relate, to connect, and to evolve.
Good evening and welcome to the GRN show. My name is Gatel Ruiz Nicholas and I am your host. You know, we've heard a lot about the Build Back Better. It's not passing, we're not making progress. But unfortunately, we have a bill that was passed in November 21 that we are not talking about. And it's a humongous bill because there are so many benefits that it covers. You know, when we think about how does any funds that are allocated at the federal government trickles down locally, a lot of times we're really are not quite sure. So today we're going to talk a little bit about the infrastructure bill, which really authorized the spending of $1.2 trillion. And we're talking about bridges, we're talking infrastructure, and I am so pleased to have our guest, Mayor Wayne Messen from the city of Miramar. But a little bit about the mayor. Obviously, he is the first African American mayor in the city of Miramar. And I don't know how many decades the city's been created, but he has done a wonderful job in terms of valuing the diversity. In Miramar, we have a very large Caribbean population, and they're able to really value these individuals and give everyone a feeling of belonging. You may also recall Mayor Messen was a former candidate for the presidential election in 2020. So, with that, I'm going to let him introduce himself in terms of what he does when he is not governing the city of Miramar. He has I guess, a pretty good size construction company, which is why I think he is an excellent person to talk about the infrastructure. So, Mayor Messen, good evening and welcome.
Good evening. How are you? Nice to see you.
Likewise, it's always good to be chatting with you. I really appreciate you being here. And as I mentioned, with the infrastructure bill, it's really, we're not touting the benefits enough. So I'm hoping our viewers will really get the essence of what this bill is all about and really capitalize on some of the advantages. But before we begin with the subject, Mayor, tell us a little bit about you, your company, and where do you see this bill really benefiting, us at the local level?
Yes, some very important questions. Well, a little bit about myself. In my private life, I'm a certified general contractor here in the state of Florida. I'm also a lead accredited professional with emphasis in building design and construction. I'm the qualifier and partner of Messen Construction. We are a construction management firm. We are in the aviation, education, healthcare sectors, as well as other commercial projects that we have in South Florida and Central Florida. So the infrastructure bill is something that has been needed for decades. There has not been this significant of investments in the American infrastructure since the interstate highway system was built across the country. So this bill not only seeks to strengthen and harden and replace dilapidated bridges, roadways, It actually has an equity component to it, and the Biden administration has made a huge emphasis in regards to using the Infrastructure and Jobs Act as a vehicle to actually right some wrongs that took place during the interstate expansion system, where many of the interstates cut right through urban communities, primarily Black communities. And you see where, like, for example, here in South Florida, like in Overtown, where I-95 split right through a traditional African-American community and really devastated that community. Also, we may loosely use the term on the other side of the railroad tracks, right? Well, when the railway system was being expanded, it literally did the same thing, went right through these neighborhoods. And I would say, obviously, there was some racism as a component of it, but it really, to some degree, was an economic decision because because of the redlining that took place in those times. Black neighborhoods were valued less. So when governments did eminent domain, it was cheaper to buy those properties. So now the Jobs Act and Infrastructure Act is challenged to not only upgrade our infrastructure, but to seek opportunities to make these communities more mobile, to address some of the environmental issues that have been plaguing. But it's timely, and it's going to really benefit our communities nationwide. Now, in terms of the Department of Transportation, the U.S. Department of Transportation, that is the chief custodian of a lot of these dollars, will be funding most of the dollars to the various states through with what is called formula funding, formula grant funding. For example, in our case, the Florida Department of Transportation will get hundreds of millions of dollars in various sectors for interstate highway. There's also hundreds of millions available for EV infrastructure and expansion. And EV simply means for electric vehicles, because in 2030,
Okay. A lot of people are
30%, yeah,
buying hybrid these days.
yes. That infrastructure component has been added, as well as high-speed internet as well in some of in our rural communities. We aren't as challenged here in Broward County and in Miramar because we are a very dense population. The telecom industries, they see where their return for investment will come by making sure that they have their fiber in place in this very populous area. But you have other communities in rural Florida, North Florida, North Central, and Florida, that they don't have that connectivity because the populace isn't there for the private sector to make that investment. So there's a lot of opportunity.
You know, Mayor, I think that is one of the provisions of the bill. When you talk about equity and inclusion, it really will positively impact the Black and Brown community. And I say that because being with a university, you'd be amazed at the number of students who have no internet.
Mhm.
Or even if you are driving in certain communities, you may be on your cell phone talking and then it just drops. So I think with COVID, we're learning to do so much more online. And the infrastructure for the digital world to be accessible to everyone is quite important. So I'm very excited about that. Now, what do you see local municipalities? How will they take advantage of this digital infrastructure component of the bill and the dollars that they can receive for that?
Well, the driving force will be the private sector, like your AT&Ts, Comcast, Xfinity, many of the internet service providers that are putting fiber down. It doesn't preclude a municipality from applying for some of the grant funding for it, for some of its installations. But what you probably will see is local governments partnering with the private sector for those type of
Hmm.
applications. Um, Also, other ways municipalities would be able to expand in terms of the infrastructure for high-speed internet is to make sure that the land use code would allow private sector to be able to get access of right-of-ways to be able to install the facilities that are going to be needed to make those expansions. In terms of the roadways, bridge projects, those types of projects, the city will benefit from a lot of the metropolitan planning organizations, which is a regional planning organization that deals with our local regional roadway systems. That typically will be funded through formula funding through the Florida Department of Transportation. But this infrastructure bill will actually did make provisions for municipalities to get direct funding. And that is through the grant program, where it'll be a competitive process where the U.S. Department of Transportation or some agency may put out, whether it's the EPA or whatever agency that has direct funding responsibility of the funds from the Infrastructure Act, where they'll put out a call for the grants for competitive funding, where they may have a pool of, say, $200 million to improve streetlights in a community, or, for example, to put sidewalks in communities. So cities like Miramar will submit a grant application for $10 million to do 4 miles worth of sidewalks throughout the city of Miramar, and we'll be competing against other cities that would also submit similar applications. So there is an opportunity for us to do grant funding. Traditionally, on an annual basis, these departments, they always put out grant funding, but it's so competitive because of the amount of funding that is available. So in years past, where there may be $50 million available for complete streets funding, which means, for bike lanes and sidewalks to make pedestrian crossing and bicycle traffic more safe in communities. Now with this bill, that 50 million now is 2 billion or maybe 200 million. Wow. So now there's more dollars available to allow more municipalities to get direct funding.
One of the things I was reading, and nowadays, when you look at workers, particularly in the planning and zoning area, it's very difficult to find, inspectors. That's always been an issue. And from what I understand, part of the bill will also facilitate municipalities to really further expand. When we talk about the digital infrastructure, it will facilitate municipalities the ability to really kind of accelerate services through different types of programming. So I think that's something that, I believe will be beneficial, especially, when you look at city of Miramar, for example, is one of the cities that still has some land to build out of Broward County. So perhaps that's another area where some of the funding will come in as well.
Yeah, so workforce development is crucial. Whether it's on the construction side or specialty skills that will facilitate the development and construction of this infrastructure is definitely key. And it's vital to be able to have that capacity at the local level to be able to facilitate the construction of these projects.
Okay, great. We're taking a short break and we will be right back.
Hello, I'm Miramar Mayor Wayne Messen, and I'm delighted to announce that the Mayor's Office will be sponsoring 100 families through Comcast's Internet Essentials program. This program provides internet to qualifying households for $9.95 per month. But for some families, during these pandemic times, that cost is unaffordable. Households who have children attending schools virtually, not having internet access, presents an unacceptable barrier and presents an opportunity for our amazing city to help. Miramar residents who also would like to help their neighbors can also sponsor internet access by contacting my office at the numbers below. In fact, I'd love to see this effort go beyond the city of Miramar. That's why I'm asking my fellow Broward County mayors to join me in sponsoring students throughout their cities with internet access through Comcast. Who will help me make our great state even stronger by empowering hardworking families and especially their children who are taking schools virtually to stay connected? So on behalf of the city of Miramar, I thank you all in advance for your help in providing internet access for those families who need it the most.
Hey guys, I never do this, but I have to tell you about this great channel that I found, Aries Vision Television. It's on Roku. It's a Haitian American channel and I love it. They have such great stuff. Movies, TV shows, children's shows, really anything you can imagine. So, I've really been binging for hours. If you are looking for something great to watch or know anybody else who's looking for something great to watch, let them know about this channel, Aries Vision Television.
We are back, and we have with us Mayor Wayne Messen from the city of Miramar, and we are talking about this gigantic bill, the infrastructure bill that President Joe Biden passed in November of 2021. And with that comes many, many opportunities for individuals and businesses. So, Mayor Messen, once again, we want to talk a little bit about some of the aspects of the bill, particularly those that deal with climate change, drinking water, hurricane or disaster preparedness. It is my understanding with the infrastructure bill, there will be some opportunities to really enhance what's available to residents of different municipalities or people overall throughout the nation. So tell us a little bit about that aspect of the infrastructure bill.
Yeah, we talk about the infrastructure bill. We say it's a big bill, but just to put it into context, you're talking about over $1 trillion, that will be invested in across America. As it relates to climate change, there is an emphasis and direct funding for projects that are resilient in nature. So as the city of Miramar, we would be more focused on our projects that will ensure that we can respond to the weather events that have obviously changed. Not too long ago, a little over a year, we just experienced a 100-year flood situation throughout South Florida, and Miramar was a part of that. Areas in our city that never saw a flood, all of a sudden the streets were flooded. And it is a very concerning issue. So projects that will enhance and expand our storm drainage capacity would qualify for that. Also, a significant amount of these dollars will be going to the states in the state revolving loan program, which is a program that provides near to zero interest rate to municipalities to borrow from the state for our infrastructure projects. Miramar has been very successful in this program. It's basically a bridge loan. It allows us to take advantage of these low-cost loans that we can do to expand our infrastructure while we can pay over time the principal for the loan, and it has a benefit for our community and the taxpayer. Now, as it relates to water quality, as you may know, and your viewers may know, that across the country, especially in a lot of older communities, there are so many, you'll be amazed the amount of lead pipes that are still in communities that have not been taken out and replaced with more appropriate transmission lines. So the neighbor communities, like you may see, like Flint, Michigan, Jackson, Mississippi, and other places of the sort that still have a lot of these pipes in place, they will receive priority as it relates to swapping out those lead pipes so that our friends across the country can have clean, drinkable public water.
Super, super. When I think of a bill like this, two things come to mind, and I know you are a champion of minority and women business program. I am hoping that a lot of our minority businesses will really be able to capitalize on those opportunities as well. So tell us a little bit about how this bill may stimulate the economy, not only from a workforce standpoint, but also really ensuring that the whole issue of inclusion and equity is addressed.
Yeah, because because the sheer amount of dollars that will be coming into the state of Florida, um, transportation projects provide opportunities for minority and small business and women-owned businesses through the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program, often known as DBEs. DBEs will, many of these projects will have DBE goals to them. So if viewers who, for example, are in civil construction, roadway construction, any type of transportation in nature, there will be a lot of opportunities. One of the challenges with this bill, and we had this discussion last week in Washington with the US Conference of Mayors, is the fact that Congress does not allow race-specific set-asides
Mm,
in its procurement process, as well as through recipients of grant funding and formula funding. So it presents some challenges. However, there is an executive order by the president to ensure that there is equity in the letting or the procurement of these projects. So you have agencies. There's a pilot program between five major port authorities, airports, none in Florida as of yet, but others will sign on, that they will pledge to leverage their own specific programs through their procurement policies to make available contracting opportunities for minority and women-owned businesses as much as possible. So although it's not in policy from Congress, because the proviso language dictates that, if you are a minority or women-owned business, a Black-owned business, Hispanic-owned business, if there is no reason why you should not be a very active participant in this process. Understand where the contracts are. Reach out to your local county governments, municipal governments. If you're in the transportation sector, definitely pay attention to the programs that will be available, because trust me, there will be many seminars, outreach programs seeking minority, small-owned business, and DBE firms to meet the requirements for this program.
And I want to point out that people are hearing infrastructure bill, they're probably thinking it's strictly construction, but there are a number of professional services that municipalities are using. It could be an outreach program, it could be architectural. So, and I'm sure with the city of Miramar and the other municipalities, those are contracts, smaller contracts perhaps, that we're hoping the smaller disadvantaged businesses would be able to get, as a prime contractor. So, I mean, so many opportunities are in the horizon, and it's quite exciting. Um, the workforce in Florida, I mean, it's all over the nation, Mayor. Uh, you hear people saying they cannot find qualified employees, and or people really are not interested in working. So, with this bill, what are some of the, I won't say career, rather, I would say, what are some of the fields you envision? Obviously, construction. What are some of the fields you feel will become a lot more popular? They don't necessarily will require a college degree, but I can envision a lot of skills, new sets of skills that will be needed. Perhaps, maybe you can talk to us a little bit about what you envision.
Yeah, there will be not only your traditional trades that will be needed in terms of carpenters, electricians, plumbers. You got professional services, which are design consultants and engineers. But you'll have emerging industries like for the electrical vehicle infrastructure.
Hmm.
Someone has to install the charging stations. They need to be serviced. They're going to be spread throughout the state. The city of Miramar currently right now is working on a master plan for the deployment of EV stations throughout the city of Miramar, whether on city-owned properties or any private location. If you're parking your car for at least an hour, that is a potential location for a charging station. So we have to explore those opportunities and partner with our community to see how we can make that deployment. We are already, because we have already started that process, we're well on our way to be able to have our master plan in place so that we're ready for those opportunities when they begin to come out. We're looking to have shovel-ready projects available so that we are in the front of the line opposed to in the back of the line, because other cities have gotten a head start. We've already gotten a head start on this, so we're really excited about that. But in terms of the workforce, there's a deficit of available workers, but it's not because people can't do it. It's just that it's competitive nature. Our economy is changing. If you look at the service industry, restaurants are really hurting right now because people are choosing to do other things. Why work in a restaurant when I can be a DoorDash driver and have more independence? I probably can make just as much money. Or they're starting other businesses now. They're so easy to start a business and to provide a service. We're becoming such a service-oriented society, and we want it now. I know I don't want to leave out of my living room. I just want to be able to pick up my phone, order on an app, and someone's knocking on my door, delivering me something. And that's really some of the realities. So we need to have jobs that will be very competitive in just accomplishment that someone feels by doing the work, as well as from compensation standpoint, to really pull people over to these trades. And I see that taking place. It's an exciting time. This is probably a once in a generation opportunity for us to build back our country. And this is the opportunity to build generational wealth. And that was another discussion during our US Conference of Mayors. There should be millionaires created because of this program. And we cannot squander this opportunity. Now, if you're a business owner, if you're sitting back thinking that someone's going to give you a contract, then you'll be still sitting there without a contract. You have to get out there, get informed, be able to be in the position to um, show the marketplace how you add value and what value you bring to a team or to a project so that you can be in the game.
Excellent, excellent point. It's interesting because nowadays you hear people say, I want a job, but I want a job where I can do it at home. I don't want to travel. I don't. I mean, I think those are. It is an opportunity to really re-engineer the workplace to accommodate and retain the workforce. So those are the types of conversations that needs to take place because the next 5 years, those dollars will be spent and the planning is now. Now, one last question I want to ask, and that is because, obviously every year we prepare for hurricane and you have places that have never had natural disasters really suffering from it. Do you think that with this bill, some of the funding will come to residents to better prepare for how would you say this, for disasters, natural disasters? Because I think in the infrastructure bill they're also talking about how to better prepare for those disasters. And with climate change and all, there is a likelihood we will see more and more of that.
Yeah, in terms of direct funding to residents or citizens, I'm not as versed as those provisions if they are available. However, at the municipal level, we're really working on our resiliency. So if we as a city can ensure that when these weather events that are actually more frequent and more severe, if we can manage that outfall of water and get it out to our bodyways and our canalways so that our streets aren't flooded. For the most part, most homes, or at least recently built homes since Hurricane Andrew, have been built to sustain most hurricanes or tropical storms that may come through our area. So South Florida is pretty much resilient, opposed to the fact that we're still dealing with saltwater intrusion. We're still dealing with sea level rise. And there's other areas that need improvement. So we are getting there. This infrastructure bill definitely helps us get much closer to that ideal, and we'll be very busy over the next few years.
Awesome, awesome. Well, Mayor Messen, I cannot thank you enough. It was wonderful having this dialogue with you, and it's an exciting time. I am looking forward to see how this infrastructure bill is really going to really help our communities, not only the federal government, but local municipalities and ultimately individuals as well. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, and take care, and God bless.
Thank you. You do the same. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
We are back. There will be 1.5 trillion jobs created by the infrastructure bill that President Joe Biden passed in November of 2021. The repair of roads, bridges, improved transportation system, reliable high internet services, new pipe for drinking waters are the many ways that we will benefit from this bill. And as I mentioned, the bill will be allocated locally in the next 5 years. Let's make the next 5 years an opportunity for us to truly prosper. When you look at job creation, there definitely will be new skill sets needed, whether you have a high school student going to college or if you are a lifelong learner. Look at the choices in career that will be opening up with the infrastructure bill. Similarly, if you own a business, Think about the services that you can offer. And if you're not offering those services, perhaps you might be able to really add the service to what you are offering. And again, the opportunities are endless. This is, as Mayor Mensom indicated, we can create generational wealth. Even when you think about investment, if you've never invested in a construction company, one that is publicly traded, you might consider, maybe companies that build homes. Caterpillar is a huge equipment company. Those stocks certainly will be increased. So again, I really urge you and encourage you to take a look at how you can improve your life financially and skill set. So with that, I want to thank you for joining us this evening. And until next time, have a wonderful Saturday night. Good night.